Hello, fellow sim racers, and welcome to the 2020 Redline Motorsport 1 Hour of Kyalami event. We have real racing drivers in the game here today. We have esport drivers, and we have that most terrible of creature, YouTube influencers here as well. I'm joined in the commentary box by Jesse Lee from Redline Motorsport. Jesse, how are you doing, man?
Hello, and I am fantastic. You know what they say, ladies and gentlemen, and sometimes whenever the world isn't great, sometimes those are the moments where you find the most extraordinary of events, and today is no different. And I'm here with Fabian. Hello, Fabian.
Hey Jesse, well, what a day it is for us sim racers today to have such an amazing event coming up to us, and yeah, also some guys you have missed on Chris is basically the developers of this game, Aris and Pankipas. What's his name again? Gergo Panker. Gergo again, yeah. He will be driving here as well. So we not also got very good race drivers here, but also very good game developers here. So that's very interesting today. But yeah, we also got another guy here today. He already talked. But if you are a frequent watcher of our Redline Motorsport races, you already know him because he's the boss of this all here. It's Simon. Hello, Simon.
How you doing, Fabian? Yeah, welcome to the stream, guys. Really appreciate you all coming to this Redline event. So yeah, really absolutely massive for us to do something like this with real life drivers, YouTubers, and yeah, and I even have the ACC devs here. So yeah, we've got absolutely awesome team today. So we've got Chris Hayes there, we've got Jesse, we've got Fabian, we've got myself. So I'll be mainly doing the cameras. Chris Hayes, you'll mainly be the main commentator with Jesse. And yeah, we've got Fabian to obviously answer any questions in the chat, guys. So if you've got any questions, do obviously pop them there, and we'll try and answer as much as we can. But yeah, back over to you, Chris.
Okay, well, I should probably apologise to the guys from Kunos for not mentioning them. I was going to leave it until a little bit later in the broadcast because Davide, Aris, and Gergo, who are the three guys driving in the race today, I know very well. I spent a lot of last year going around Europe with them to the SRO Esport GT series, which means I have quite a lot of dirt on them, and I was going to leave it until a bit later in the broadcast before we brought that up. But thank you, Fabian, for pointing that out. Now, if you're new to Assetto Corsa Competizione, you may not know some of the esport names. And if you're new to GT3 racing, perhaps you may not know some of the real-world drivers we've got here. Currently, we're in free practice sessions, so we've got plenty of time to go through the entry list and talk about some of the guys who are taking part in this event today. Now, I'm going to start by mentioning Kelvin van der Linde. If anyone saw my preview video earlier, you'll already know that he's a 24 Hours of Nürburgring winner in 2017. He's a winner in the GT Masters series and in the Blancpain GT series, and pretty much in anything where you can drive GT3 cars. A real up-and-coming driver, and definitely someone to look out for today. As we watch him on the stream now, hasn't really set a representative time yet in this practice session. We're also joined by some guys you'll definitely know, David Perel and Dennis Lin, both big in both GT racing and sim racing. Dennis Lind has been involved in the World Endurance Championship, equivalent in sim racing, the Virtual Endurance Championship, for a long time, and has been a fixture of that series, and made his Blancpain Europe debut during the previous season in the championship winning car. In fact, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, that had he participated in the final round in Barcelona, he would have actually been a world champion, which is, I think, in just the Endurance Cup. Actually, I'm a little bit muddled on that one myself. But yeah, we've got a very strong field here. Maybe, Jesse, you could introduce some of the guys from Team Redline who, the likes of James Parker, are very near the top of the timesheet already.
Yes, absolutely. We have a star-studded field here today, but we cannot forget that there are RLM esports superstars in this field today as well. And as Chris mentioned, James Parker, who's currently the third quickest driver here, will likely set even quicker times as this qualifying session continues to roll on. I've certainly seen him run quicker laps than he currently has now, but It is early days here in practice, it would seem. So I expect him to set a lot quicker times. And so the times to fall too. I know that I've seen 39s, and might I even mention the mythical 38 around Kyalami. Today, it is very possible. But James Parker, in particular, is a driver that I'll be looking out for here today to take it all. And certainly, I reckon he might have one of the best shots, Chris.
I would agree. I know James from the SRO Esport GT series, and just in front of him on track is another driver that I met last year through that particular event, Josh Martin, a Team Thrustmaster driver. He's involved in the F1 Esports side of things and is generally a very well-known guy in sim racing circles. I nearly called him a connected guy, which makes him sound much more mafioso than he is. He's like this short, nice Scottish guy, and probably the least connected sort of guy you could possibly imagine. But Josh, very entertaining through all of the SRO events last year, as was James. I'm sure I will tell stories about James, who very nearly qualified for the final, but I'll save them a little bit later for the race. Who else from the RLM stable should we be looking at today, Jesse?
Well, I'm scrolling through the list, but I don't think that you could look at a race for RLM Esports and not talk about Chris Hokie, because he is one of the guys that is always near the front. He's always competing for wins, and I wouldn't take my eyes off him either. You're basically going to need more than 2 eyeballs to get everything under the wraps today. There's several other drivers that we haven't talked about yet, and we will talk about, I promise you. But Chris Hokie, again, another driver that is an RLM Esports driver that we will certainly be looking at today. Chris?
Well, there are 48 drivers out on track in this event at present, so we've got plenty of time to talk about everyone. We haven't really mentioned any of the influencers yet. Subject close to my heart, because I suppose technically I am one. But we have the likes of Jardier in here, a well-known sim racing streamer, very fast guy. I would expect to see him near the front of the field when it comes down to crunch time. We've got Random Call Sign. You'll see him on your timing sheet as Ricardo Claro. We have Dan Suzuki as well. And how could I forget Steve Alvarez Brown, better known as Super GT, or Alex Albon, depending on how he's... But, and of course, Mr. Git as well. Probably one of the best known guys in Assetto Corsa Competizione circles, I should say. Simply because he runs the insane big grid events. They did 105, I think it might have even been 107 drivers at Suzuka a couple of days ago. Watching the video from that looked absolutely insane. But as you said, Jesse, we've got such a big field of drivers. It's tough to know at this stage really how anything's going to play out. I think we've got a fairly stable weather conditions set throughout the weekend. We had to make it, I think it's fair to say we had to make it easy on the real world guys who maybe don't have the experience of the nuances of a simulator. And I think that's an important point, isn't it, Jesse?
Yeah, it absolutely is. See, in other splits today, there have the possibility of weather. Here today, for the real driver split, we have decided to make it about as perfect conditions as you could possibly imagine. It's a beautiful sun-drenched day here in South Africa, and a great day for a race, and a great day to be on track and rubbing elbows with some real-life superstars. And Chris, to your point, I want to go back to Super GT for a moment. You know as good as I do, that guy used to drive on a gaming pad up until semi-recently, and he's made the switch, and he's made big waves, not only as a YouTuber and an influencer, but also he's a he's a karting enthusiast now. And now
he's a very multi-talented guy. I think he gets a bit of stick for driving in chase cams sometimes, but there's no denying when he gets into a kart, he knows what he's doing, and when he gets into GT Sport, he knows what he's doing. Then, of course, we got Kevin Siggy, who I believe won the McLaren Shadow this year as well. So, unsurprisingly, driving a McLaren 720S, which looks absolutely mean in the Shadow Project colours. I'd have gone for the orange one personally, but to each their own.
Yeah, so I just want to just jump in there just real quickly. So we've actually got 4 splits running tonight. So we've got an AM split, Pro-Am and Pro, and then obviously we've got the real driver split tonight. So yeah, four splits running tonight. So we've got about 170 drivers racing tonight. So it should be fun for them. So originally the first 3 splits we got running is a wet track for them, because that was what was originally planned before we decided to make this real life split. As we just said there, we wanted to make it fun and fair for the guys, to have a nice dry race, to obviously put on a show. So, like I said, with the main talent we've got here anyway. So, yeah.
So I think I should probably just mention that we were supposed to be joined in the commentary box by Scott Manser tonight, driver 61, who many of you will know through his YouTube channel, a real-world driver and driver coach. Probably again best known for his driver coaching stuff on YouTube. Unfortunately, he's come down ill today, and he's very keen to mention that it's not coronavirus. But sadly, it's kept him out of the commentary box. So you're going to have to slum it with us for any of the in-depth driver analysis, I'm afraid.
Yeah, certainly not an ideal situation, and we hope that whatever minor issue or illness he's dealing with, that he gets better very quickly. And of course, we wish that he was with us here tonight. Scotty, we wish you were here. Certainly, we're thinking about you, and we will drudge on regardless, because we have a fantastic race that we have to cover, and we will do just that. But I mentioned Chris Hoke earlier in the broadcast about being one to mention. He's climbed his way in practice, albeit up to second place so far. So there you go, an RLM Esports driver in the top 2. Of course, Giovanni DeSalvo is your current pace setter. He set a 1:40.155 here in practice. Of course, this is just practice. It doesn't really count for anything, but you get a sort of a gauge of what these cars will be running around here. But don't let them fool you. I guarantee you in qualifying, we'll see that 139, Chris.
Yeah, very much so. We when we were watching James Parker just before on a back, just watching James Parker earlier, you can see he's been doing slightly longer runs. So these definitely aren't low fuel runs from some of the guys running at the front. We don't know whether it was for DeSalvo. I would expect not. He's an experienced driver. I know him from the SRO Esport GT series last year and from various other competitions. So it seems very unlikely that anyone's running low fuel glory laps at this stage. So a little bit of time still left to be found as James Parker just pops it up into second place on, as I said, a slightly longer run as well. In front of him on the track is Jardier, mentioned him earlier, well-known streamer and very fast guy, currently running in 7th place, sort of half a second off of the ultimate pace. But again, we don't really know the fuel levels. Interesting to note, Jesse, the selection of cars. It's not surprising to see a lot of Porsches out there and a lot of Audis. But mixing it up at the front, we have McLaren 720S. Does the car selection surprise you at all?
No, Chris, it doesn't at all. We've known for some time that the Porsche would be the proverbial stick here today, and it's no surprise that we're seeing a lot of that. There's no surprise we're seeing a lot of Audi. Well, I'll tell you one thing that is surprising. It's Kevin Siggy's McLaren that has found his way into the top 5 early. So I don't. That's an anomaly for me. I did not expect to see that, but I'm happy to see that. But as far as the Porsches and the Audis, I think that's pretty much what we expected. Not sure if the BOP favors the car, or perhaps it's the other way around, and the car favors the track.
It's interesting with the Porsche, particularly because early on in the race, when it's got fuel on board, in longer fuel runs, it seems to just have immense traction, obviously with the fuel tank in the back. Fuel tank in the front, keeping the car nice and balanced. It makes for an interesting development throughout the race. And I know from speaking to James Parker, amongst other people, that James in particular likes to run slightly heavier in the Porsche because those last few laps on fumes can be pretty dicey. We're watching Gergo Panka on the mainstream at the moment. He is the livery designer, one of the graphic designers for Kunos Simulazione. So many of the liveries you've seen today that aren't custom liveries would have been designed by him. Really nice guy, and really glad to see him in this event today. He's joined by Aris, who everyone knows from Kunos, his Aris Drive series on YouTube, where he gives extremely detailed but also very long explanations about how some of the most detailed stuff in the game works. And if you're new to ACC or you want to learn a little bit more, go and find Aris on YouTube, because the way he manages to communicate some of these complex concepts is absolutely incredible. And finally, just ahead of him in terms of time is Davide Brivio, who is Kunos's, I think he's got about 7 job titles actually, but I think mainly he's their esports and marketing guy. So I think he'll be very happy to be ahead of Aris on the track at the moment.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I didn't know up until sort of recently a lot of these Kunos devs, and I'm just now getting to know some of them. And I'll refer back to your knowledge, Chris, on more than a fair share of occasions about a lot of these drivers. But it is fantastic, isn't it, that we have this interesting mix here this afternoon, or this evening, I should say, with real racing drivers mixing with devs, mixing with YouTube celebrities, mixing with well, just about everything else, isn't it? It's going to be fantastic. And I have to ask at this point, since we're late in practice, do you think that we are going to have a surprise victor tonight, or are you going to go with the normal esports driver routine?
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking down the broadcast tower that you've got on the left of your screen if you're watching at home at the moment, and looking at the names there. And you're seeing the bottom half of the screen, and there are some big names in there that are still yet to find some time. Josh Martin, an esports guy, Samir, an RLM esports guy. We've got Steve Alvarez Brown as a very fast YouTuber. So there's a lot of guys that have got a lot of pace that are still in the bottom half of the field. Of course, it's only practice, and that caveat has to be applied. But looking, if you look into the top half of the field, there are a lot of esport names there, including RLM's own James Parker, still holding out in second place, just 2/10 off of the lead. So in answer to your question, which I think, given how long my answer's been, I probably could have avoided had I kept waffling on. I've got to say, and because I'm a guest here, I if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on James Parker right now.
Wow, all right. I would not bet against you, Chris. I really wouldn't, but I agree with you on one thing. This is not Samir Ibrahimi's ultimate pace, is it? It's just not what you're going to see. I think after qualifying, I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you again after qualifying, because after that point, we'll have a very clear picture of what these guys are capable of, as Giovanni DeSalvo does go a bit quicker that lap, it must be said. He's knocked it down to a 140.062. It was a 140.1 previously, so he picked up a little bit. He's flirting with that 139, Chris.
He's flirting with the track limits as well at the same time, by the look. Abandons that lap and returns to the pits. Yeah, the Jean Lacey Esports Academy driver had, I think he had a couple of cracks at the SRO qualifiers last year, and I think it was just a little bit short of getting to the final in the end. But interesting to see him doing incredibly well. Now we've got some of the THR guys doing quite well at the moment. Elvin Smith, better known as THR Wolf, has popped it up into second place, just a 10th off of the top. And, bringing an Audi into the top 6 or 7 Porsches for the first time in a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to continue to see those things here in the closing 10 and a half minutes of free practice here. You're going to see some guys pick up some pace, and you're going to see a lot of the drivers who you would normally expect to be at the top sort of migrate to the top, if you will. Elvin Smith doing just that, as Chris pointed out, flirting with inside 2/10 off of the ultimate pace of Giovanni DeSalvo at the moment. But it's interesting. You probably have more experience at Kyalami than I do. So what are some turns around here, Chris, that you are sort of afraid of, or perhaps more timid towards rather than others?
There's a few tricky ones. It's a deceptively tricky course, this new rebuild of Kyalami. I mean, it's quite similar to the 1992 rebuild in terms of the overall layout, but a lot of the corners are quite significantly reprofiled. Obviously, very different to the original circuit, which lay on land mostly to the north of where the current layout is. So we're watching Danilo Santoro on screen, about to come through the final corner. It's just one of those late apex corners, of which there are plenty at Kyalami. But there's also, I think, Sunset Bend, the long sweeping right-hander, sort of towards the end of the first third of the lap is always a bit tricky when the tires start to go off a little bit. Then you've got VS's as well, a pair of sort of mid-speed left-right. That's a bit difficult as we see Santoro making his way through Barbecue Bend. Again, another tricky late apex corner. If we stick with him now, then you'll see him go through that fast right-hander Sunset Bend, which it's not the most technical corner in the world, but it's fast. And once the tires start to go down, maybe the fuel starts to change the balance of the car, it can be tricky. You've got this braking zone into the late apex clubhouse bend. This is where the new layout of the circuit is still following the old layout. And it starts to diverge away at just after the S's here, and we go into a left-hand hairpin, which takes it onto the sort of the new layout of the circuit. But that was a very long answer again to a very simple question. But I think for me, the one I always get wrong is the second to last corner, which is Cheetah. It's got this horrible little sausage curve just on the inside, and it's a fast sort of 45-degree right-hand flick. As we just missed it on the pictures of Darren King there, but it's this 45-degree right-hand flick with this massive sausage curve on the inside. So you want to take as much of that curve as possible, and as soon as you clip the sausage, you get airborne, and it's game over.
I absolutely love the way that you describe things. By the way, everybody, this is the first time that Chris and I have ever conversed, really, as well as ever done a broadcast together. It's an honor to broadcast with you, Chris. Hey, it's fantastic to be here, and I loved the way that you described that run around the track. That was so poetic. It's almost like you do that for a living.
I think one person's poetry is another person's long-winded bore. But thank you so much for having me here, guys. I've been watching what you guys have been up to for a while, and collaborating with James Parker. He came and did a video with me helping describe some of the setup stuff in Assetto Corsa. Actually came to my house and we recorded a video. I then managed to corrupt a whole bunch of the video footage from that, and we nearly had to scrap the whole thing. So not my finest hour, but it is lovely to be here in what is widely regarded as one of the most competitive ACC communities, and putting on what is a frankly amazing event as we watch Axel Petit, another SRO Esport driver. The field is packed with them. These are some of the fastest guys in Assetto Corsa Competizione, as proven by their esports record, and unsurprisingly, they're all up near the sharp end.
Yeah, it isn't very surprising, really, when you think about it. The esports drivers, I mean, they do this sort of for a living, don't they? Like, that is their thing. They are meant to go quickly, and go quickly they do. And while we were talking, ladies and gentlemen, Elvin Smith has climbed his way not only to, and just like that, the commentator's curse, as Danilo Santoro has taken over pole position. What I was going to say was Elvin Smith put his Audi on pole position with a 139.933, but in the process of doing, and they've done it to me again, and in the process of doing that, Danilo Santoro had taken pole at a 139.864. But as I was trying to tell you that, Giovanni DeSalvo said that pole position, or not pole position, I should say, fastest in free practice, should belong to him, and he does a 139.813. Obviously kept it on the island that time, Chris.
Yeah, track obviously very rubbered in. We can see pictures now, times falling, maybe running slightly lower fuel loads in preparation for qualifying. We had quite a long free practice session for an esport event. Sometimes you only get 15 minutes or something, so having, I think, about 45 minutes they had a few minutes before we came on air is a bit of a luxury to be able to do a well-rounded program of long runs and then perhaps short runs towards the end to prep for qualifying. But as you say, it's a battle up the front with the Porsches, the Audis, but it's very difficult, as you said earlier, to bet against those Porsches right now, Jesse.
Yeah, I think the one outlier to me continues to be Kevin Siggy, who sits in 4th place in that McLaren. I think that's a 720S, if I'm not very much mistaken.
It very much
But
is, Jesse. I am.
he's
I should get
in
my
4th.
allegiances. I should get my allegiances really clear on the stream. I'm based a couple of miles outside of Woking, where the McLaren factory is based. So despite saying that I'm rooting for James Parker from RLM, to be nice, to my friend and to you guys, I wouldn't mind seeing a McLaren win either. I've got to be honest.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we have to see what the race actually brings, don't we? So, we've got just over, or just under 4 minutes left to practice. We've got 15 minutes to qualify, and then it's a 60-minute race. So, complete sprint race, no pit stops or anything. Yeah, I guess we've got 48 cars on track, haven't we? So, 48 cars. So, hopefully, we do have a nice, clean race. What's your thoughts on this, Chris?
Exactly what I was about to bring up, Simon. If anyone watched any of the Esport Real Drivers versus Esport Drivers events that happened last weekend, particularly the race one, it wasn't the virtual drivers that were having trouble keeping it on the island and keeping it clean. It was the real world racing drivers who perhaps were a little bit more prone to incident. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Speaking of real world drivers, we haven't seen a lot from David Perel, who not only is a real world driver but well-known sim racer as well. Haven't seen a lot from him so far, as he last time I saw was outside of the top 20, so unless I'm very much mistaken. Same with Dennis Lind, who's driving the Lamborghini, which I think it's fair to say isn't the favoured car here. Neither is the Ferrari that David Perel's driving his real world livery, which is very nice to see. If you're not subscribed to David Perel on YouTube, you should. He makes some of the best motorsport content videos I've ever seen. He does these onboard camera videos from his races, but where he actually talks about what he's thinking, what he's doing, why he did certain things while he's driving. So it's not just he hasn't just shoved a GoPro in his GT3 car like many others do. There's actually some analysis in there, which is I think it's quite valuable personally, but even just as a nerdy motorsport fan, as David Perel proves the point I was trying to make earlier about Cheetah Corner. If you hit that sausage curb, you're in deep trouble. Managed to keep it out of the wall like a pro, though.
Absolutely, yeah. There we go. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, quite a few people obviously going into the pits now, so we've still got a minute and a half of free practice. Yeah, then we've got a 15 minutes to qualify. So yeah, 48 cars on track. It's going to be absolutely intense with 48 cars at this track today. So we'll, see if everyone can actually get into the 39s again. Looks like we've got the top 3 into the 139s at the moment, which is pretty impressive. I'm
not sure what the track temperature is at the moment, whether we're going to get significantly better times in qualifying. It'll be interesting to see.
Yes.
We've certainly seen low 39s at Kyalami before, so I'd expect the times to drop a little bit further, unless the track conditions are particularly bad for that. So we're watching Jardier there, running in the top 10, half a second off the ultimate pace. I think he's still going to be someone to keep watching towards the end of the race as it unfolds. Always a great competitor and one of the nicest guys as well. I think that's Dennis Lind on track in front of him as well. I could be wrong there. I think that's him from the Spotter's Guide, not driving his his in-game version of the car, not driving the 555 Motorsport Lamborghini. Instead, he's got I'm not sure how to describe that livery, Jesse.
Well, it's you put me on the spot here, and it's it's certainly things, and it's yeah. I don't think, but back to Jardier. I'm not surprised personally that he's inside the top 10. He's a very quick driver and just a fascinating guy to talk to and to watch race. Certainly, I've been spoiled having Jardier here in the RLM series, running these one-off races for a few times now, and it's fantastic to watch him drive, and the way that he picks through a field, or comes through a field, I should say, is absolutely fantastic. But as we end free practice here, waiting for the timer to run out, and every car that's still on a lap to make a lap. Not a lot of activity going on at the moment. Pretty sure Giovanni DeSalvo is safe, running the quickest time in free practice here over Danilo Santoro. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen in qualifying. One thing, though, is I think the Audis have proven to this point that not only can they hang with the Porsches, we might get a surprise here, Chris.
Yeah, I would more than welcome an Audi or McLaren of Kevin Siggy up on the front row to break the sort of Porsche dominance. It's interesting, though, that while you've got the DeSalvo and Santoro up the front in the Porsche and Parker rounding out the top five, it's a sea of Audis behind him. So, as you say, I think we're pretty close in terms of pace between the two cars. And it's going to be down to the individual and, of course, their setup as to just who can extract the most out of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. As we are green for qualifying here at noon, and it is a 15-minute session, and it's just an absolute land rush to get out of pit lane. Chris, is there any reason why you would want to go out so early in a pack of cars like this? Is there anything that any logical reason why you would do this? Maybe you're hoping to be the first car out, but
well,
if you're the
first one, it's a no-brainer. If you're the next 20 or so, it's more questionable. But that is rush hour on the freeway right there. In fact, that's busier than the road this morning when I had to pop out. And thanks to a little bit of social quarantining around here, the roads have been beautiful. As we see Roman Monti taking the grass line on his outlap. That's probably not to be advised. But we saw about half the field coming out right away and half the field staying in. So I expect to see a similar rush in about half a lap's time. Whatever the case, though, 48 cars on track, it's going to be busy. It doesn't matter where you are. It's just going to be busy throughout, I think.
Yeah, we can see this, can't we? It's just, 48 cars all trying to pile out the pit at once, yeah. Going to be interesting for sure. See, let's hope the lap time's going to obviously get better as the track obviously optimised. We've got just over 30 minutes of the qualifying left. So yeah, it's probably still the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes of qualifying is when we normally get to see, the fastest laps. This is when we usually see the top sort of 20 really change position. So yeah, should be room for an awesome race, I'd say. Back over to you, Chris.
Yeah, so we're just about getting the first guys through. It looks like right at the front of the pack, we've got a couple of the RLM guys very quickly out of the pits. They know their way around this sort of activity particularly well. I'm just interested to see how this turns out. Like everyone else, there's a bit of a form book as we've got, I think that's Josh Martin, the only Lexus, sort of perhaps getting in Vicky Thompson, one of the RLM drivers, way a little bit as she went down into turn 2. This is just going to be so difficult finding a space out on track as we've got cars on their fast lap, cars coming out to do their first hour lap. This is going to be a bit interesting, Jesse.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And why we have a brief second before we start posting really quick laps, would someone like to explain the color-coded numbers they're seeing on the screen and what they mean in relation to the race?
Perhaps that's one for Fabian, who we haven't heard from for a little while, actually. Perhaps not.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do
it.
Sorry,
guys. I was just listening to the stream myself to check if everything was fine. But yeah, I could explain you that. So the red numbers are the esports drivers. The gray numbers are either streamers or game developers. So, for example, people like Jardia or people like Aris, one of the Kuno staffs, will have the gray background, and all drivers with the white background are real-life drivers today.
Yeah, and as you can see, thankfully with the color coding, you can see it's a pretty even mix of the different types of drivers. As we see Kevin Siggy on presumably a fast lap getting a bit of a wiggle on the exit of Cheetah Corner, which we were talking about earlier. We'll see what happens as he posts his fast time. Jardier currently the fastest of the first runners with a 140.3. We saw down into the 138s in the previous session, so I don't expect those times to stand.
No, they absolutely won't, Chris. These times are going to come down. We already saw a 39.8 in practice. I don't see why we wouldn't see even quicker here, but at least for the time being, we do have Jardier on pole for this race. So that's good. I mean, at least you got that lap in there, and that's not a terrible lap. It's just that I suspect that the times are going to continue to take a tumble as we have 10 and a half minutes to play here. And like Chris said earlier, there's almost with 48 cars in the race. Cannot stress that enough. This is 48 cars that we have here today. There's almost no place to find some clean running room. I think we saw a bit of that on the land rush that was the start of this session. Gentlemen, people in chat are asking, and I don't have it pulled up at the moment. Do we have track temperatures in qualifying that we could give the people?
Yeah, Simon's just
Yes.
informed me that it's 25 degrees C on track. So, yeah, pretty much in the middle.
Yeah, sorry,
Not a
Chris. I
bad-
just want to quickly update you there. That was the practice. It's now actually 32 degrees on the track, 25 degrees ambient. So yeah, I do apologise. I will keep you posted with those temperatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, as we've seen James Parker just go a little bit quicker at the top. That 40.2, 40.3 around for the fastest guys, a good safe banker laps, I would say. They would have put you 3 or 4 tenths off of the fastest time in practice. But with limited time to get a clean lap in and even more limited space, I don't think that's a bad place to be to start with for a banker lap.
No, it certainly isn't. You want to get a lap in there. You certainly, me personally, and keep in mind, I'm no esports pro. There's a reason I'm here in the booth with you guys today, enjoying this fantastic race on a Friday instead of out there myself, and that's because I am not professional level. These guys are, but it's always smart, in my opinion, to go out there and get a lap that is sort of on marginal pace. You know, you're not going 100%, maybe you're going 98%, but get that lap in there and then maybe dip back into the pits, put some new tires on it, lighten the fuel even more if you can, make a final adjustment and really go for it. That 100% be perfect time to do that. But Chris, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. Just get a lap in sort of in the quick bracket and then absolutely hammer it.
Yeah, just watching some of those pictures while you were talking there, Jesse, and it looked, it looked horrible. Just trying to find space, cars everywhere, cars leaving the pits, cars entering the pits, just traffic everywhere. As watching David Perel down in 27th place, 1.2 seconds off the ultimate pace. Still quite a lot of work to do for him. Fairly new to ACC. I think his first ACC race was the Mr. Git Spa inter-community race that I took part in about 6 weeks ago. So he's pretty new compared to certainly all the RLM guys, most of the esports guys, and all of the influencers as well. So certainly not a bad effort, but more time needed to be found there. But he does have some space. He might be the only one, but he's got some space.
Well, as we were talking about that, Chris Hoke had taken the provisional pole, only for James Parker 2 car lengths behind to then take it from him. Current fast lap of 140.19 or 149, I should say. Absolutely nothing between the top two, both in Porsches, followed by 2 Audis, those being of Elvin Smith and Jardier. But again, there is a lot of time to come in, as James Parker has just passed under the commentary box, and he's back out because he wants to set a better lap, and he knows, and we know, that there is more time in it. But it's just fantastic because, like you theorized, these times are just going to continue to fall, and we're going to see, dare I say, a 39.5 at the end of this session, Chris.
That's a bold prediction there. I like commentator makes a bold prediction because it's all too easy to see when it comes true. But we have an all RLM front row at the moment, so I'm just going to go out and say that it's a fix. And
oh no, you wouldn't.
But it's, as I said, James Parker looking very good, as Chris Hoke has just taken the time back from him by the looks of things as well at the top of the screen. So it's a great battle between the RLM guys. And then, as you say, 2 Audis behind Jardier and Elvin Smith. So we're actually got a pretty tight battle up the front. And I'm excited to see how this finally plays out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's almost like somebody here at RLM told the RLM esports drivers that whoever wins qualifying gets a nice little bonus. But certainly that isn't true. But it's fun to joke about. But these guys are serious. These guys mean serious business. As what you're continuing to see here is a driver will come out and they will set a lap. In Chris Hockey, for instance, set a quick lap and immediately came back into pit road, and so did James Parker, and so is Elvin Smith. And that's just to make sure that their next qualifying lap, or their flying lap, so to speak, is at optimal, I assume, Chris, at least, to make sure that their flying laps are optimal. No sense in doing multiple laps in search of that one fast one.
Danilo Santoro just missing out on provisional pole there. We saw him go into the 38s in the previous session, but as I said, the track temperature has gone up a little bit, so not sure what the ultimate pace will be, but missing out by 1/100th of a second is a pretty bitter pill to swallow. While we were just talking, we saw a little bit of Matt Samuel in the Aston Martin. Now, Matt Samuel is a British drift champion, driving Nissan 300ZXs and the like. There we go, back to Matt Samuel. So haven't seen a lot of him so far. I think he's pretty new to Assetto Corsa Competizione. It'll be nice to see what he can do. Currently a second and a half off the pace, but be nice to see him drift that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it would be nice for us to see him do that. I don't think he wants to do that. But, folks, just to let you know how bonkers this race is, we've got GT racing champions, endurance race winning drivers and race champions. We've got karting champions. And, of course, we have the aforementioned Matt Samuel, who is a British drift champion. Unbelievable stuff we have here today. There's no other reason other than esports, no other reason other than sim racing where you would find all of those combinations of drivers racing at the same time.
Very true. I mean, perhaps the only thing that sort of comes close to that sort of diversity is the Race of Champions events. I seem to remember reading in a couple of people's books, actually, that those are more excuses for drivers to get together and to get a bit of a party on in the hotel rather than actually take the event serious. So I suspect we're seeing a lot of guys, as we're watching Jordan Pepper briefly there in the Bentley, which he used quite skillfully to win the Bathurst 12 Hours earlier this year. What a race! What a place to be, and what a drive! What a car! What am I talking about? Who knows? As we're watching Dennis Lin, who, as I said before, a well-known esports entity, a well-known sim racer, a well-known real-world driver, so probably bridging the gap of everything we've been talking about. We haven't talked about William Marsh yet, sim racing paddock, one of the YouTubers that are taking part in the race today. I don't think he spent a lot of time in ACC today, so perhaps we aren't going to be expecting him to be mixing it up at the front, but a reasonably fast guy a lot of the time, and nice to see him taking part in this event. Also, just a really nice guy as well. I should point that out.
100%, yeah, I agree. Great guy.
As Marius Zug, the lone BMW in the field. Can anyone confirm that for me?
Sorry, Chris, a little bit of a breakout then.
Oh, sorry. Is Marius Zug the only BMW? Does look like it, doesn't it? We've only got one lone BMW, a few of the British cars, the Bentleys, the Aston Martins and the McLarens, and then it's absolute German domination up the front with the Porsches and Audis. And speaking of which, Giovanni De Salvo with the Porsche on the front row, as we saw in the practice session. Still not down into the 39s yet, though.
Yeah, part of me wonders if the track is just a little too warm to be setting those really quick lap times. Part of me wants to believe that they haven't hit their ultimate pace yet. But by the way, Chris, I can confirm there is the lone BMW in the field. And as you know, one is the loneliest number that there ever was. But what's definitely not lonely is the 4 Porsche lockout at the front of this field, followed by 3 Audis and then another Porsche. But again, you got Kevin Siggy, who's hanging on in the top 10 with that McLaren. Kevin Siggy, no stranger to the front, a fantastic driver, really, really quick. It's just an interesting choice. But you know what they say, good drivers can make any car fast, and I think that's what Kevin Siggy's showing us.
Very true. And another interesting point to point out, in 11th place now, Kelvin van der Linde. We haven't seen a lot
Wow.
of the real world drivers yet. They've been, I think it's fair to say, a little bit eclipsed by the guys that do this full time, but half a second off for Kelvin van der Linde, finding pace all the time. Definitely not worth, not someone I'd write off just yet. As we look at that utter Porsche domination, which I think matches the real 12 Hours of Kyalami event from last year quite well. I definitely would have had a Porsche if I'd have had the choice in that race, and I think I would today as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly point in, sorry, that we're actually now at the top 24 are within 1 second off the pace at the moment. So, I mean, that's absolutely
Oh my
insane.
word, you're right.
That is incredible, and you know the all the way down to 10th place or so within half a second. As we begin, the clocks run out on qualifying. People that have already started a lap can finish it, but it's going to be difficult for anyone to topple Giovanni De Salvo at the top there. But we do have Chris Hoker. It looks like he's still on our lap. I don't know what's happening with James Parker, Danilo Santoro as well, out on track at the moment. So there's potentially still some room to move at the top, Jesse.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Giovanni De Salvo for saving my bacon a little bit. I promised you guys a 39 in qualifying, and goodness gracious, he got it to me. So thank you, Giovanni De Salvo. You saved me there. It's not quite the 39.5 that I sort of theorized could occur, but it is still a 39. But as Simon alluded to earlier, there are 24 drivers within a second of each other. That is as close as you like. I don't think it was anywhere near that close in the real thing, but the it's whatever is going on here. It's absolutely working. This is what happens when you get so many top esports drivers mixed with real life racing drivers. And Kelvin van der Linde, of course, in 12th place. That is fantastic. Chris, I can tell you he was practicing all morning this morning, getting prepared for this event. He was serious too. He stopped talking to us to practice. He was focused in on this race, and it's showing up on the timesheet.
Well, there's a reason these guys get paid to do it normally, and you know, Kelvin's one of the drivers that is actually paid to ply his craft in GT3, as far as I'm aware. Obviously, it's one of those categories where bringing money is pretty critical to the whole thing. But yeah, very much a professional, and you'd expect that. We saw Mikowski just improving up to 8th place at the end there. But in general, I think as the qualifying session rounds out, there was very little in the way of improvement. Saw Chris Hoker just running wide at the edge of Cheetah, as so many have, just trying to push to get onto that pole position, but he couldn't take it from Giovanni De Salvo in the end. But my God, that's so close at the top as we're scrolling down through the list. 25 cars within a second, and the next bunch a little bit more spread out, but still within 2 seconds we've got 40 cars. That's extraordinary. And we've even got even the slow guys, and I won't name any names because that's a horrible thing to say about people, are only 2.5 seconds off the pace. 2.5 seconds in a game like this across such a diverse field is just an extraordinary thing. But props go to De Salvo, Giovanni De Salvo on pole position.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get back into the game. It's doing that little bug at the moment, so do bear with us a second, guys.
If you're watching this and
Yes.
you're not used to a sim racing broadcast, these things unfortunately do happen. Broadcasting tools are often secondary to the simulation experience itself. So bear with us while we get that sorted out. But right, let's go down the list and let's see if there was anyone that did particularly well in that session that perhaps we didn't have a lot of time to talk about. Axel Petit in 5th place there, another SRO esports driver. Took the Audi to 5th place, the top Audi actually, by the looks of things. Not able to break the domination of the Porsches at the top. But then we have a group of 3 more: Elvin Smith from THR, Jardier from YouTube, and Mikowski in the Audis following up. We've got Kevin Siggy rounding out the top 10 in the McLaren 720S. Luca Tozzato in the Porsche, again another SRO eSport driver, followed by Kelvin van der Linde in 12th, the first of our real world drivers. Samir following in the Lamborghini, which I think is a brave choice to take here. Actually, I'd love to speak to him afterwards and work out why he chose. But if it's not German, it doesn't get to be in the top 10 by the looks of things. I think that's the rule, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to put on a quick track guide video for you guys, which Ryan has made for us, and we'll be back in about a minute or so. So please bear with us. See you shortly.
Welcome to the Kyalami racing circuit, located 15 miles north of Johannesburg. The 2.81 mile circuit, built in 1961 and last changed in 2016, has 16 corners and a lap record of 142.272 set by Porsche in 2019. Overtaking opportunities wherever you look here. The first is into turn 2, as the long start finish straight will give you a great run onto those ahead of you. Overtaking is plentiful, but watch out at turn 10, get your braking wrong and you could be going into the back of your opponents instead. And finally, down through the mine shaft and into the crocodiles will give you a nice opportunity to pass your opponent with little reply.
Right, we are live now.
Welcome back to the 2020 Redline Motorsport 1 hour of Kyalami. If you're just joining us, then you've missed an incredibly close qualifying session. We had 24 or 25 cars within a second. This field made up of professional racing drivers, of professional esports drivers, semi-professional esports drivers, and influencers of varying levels of professionalism have I think done us incredibly proud so far, and I think we're in for a race that's going to be extremely close. Jesse, what was your take on qualifying?
Well, I don't think it was any surprise that Porsche dominated qualifying, and I don't think it was any surprise based on how fast he was in practice. The Giovanni De Salvo won the war, and trust us, folks, if you missed it, it was absolutely a war for pole position. Literally nothing in it between him and Chris Hockey. But at the end of the day, Giovanni De Salvo gets the honors for this very special race. My takeaways is exactly what Simon and you both said. There are 25 drivers within a second, which means that even though Giovanni De Salvo is the quickest in qualifying, he's only a second faster than the guy that's more than halfway down the field.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary thing to think about, isn't it? 25 drivers all within a second. Obviously, the field will spread out pretty quickly. Tactics are going to be on track only. There's going to be no pit strategy to worry about. It's an hour-long race. And, perhaps maybe one of the thirstier cars like the Mercedes might have had to have worried about a pit stop over an hour here. I'm not entirely sure, but the rest of the cars should be able to do an hour, no problem whatsoever. So shouldn't be seeing anyone pitting. Tires are going to be fine over a space of an hour. So this is all going to be on track if you see it. And in my experience from the 4 circuits that came in the Intercontinental GT pack, Kyalami has produced the best racing so far. Sure, Bathurst is an incredible track to look at, and Suzuka is just one of these amazing driving experiences. And obviously Laguna Seca is a wonderful, just one of the greatest circuits in the world. But it's Kyalami that's really produced great GT3 racing as we see the field start to pull away for the formation lap. Jesse, what's going through a driver's mind at this point in the race? Put yourself in Giovanni De Salvo's shoes, just for a moment.
Well, as I said earlier, I'm nowhere near as quick as Giovanni De Salvo, but every race is incredibly similar. Doesn't matter if you're racing for $1 million or just for fun on a Saturday night. Especially if you're Giovanni De Salvo, the one thing that you're focused on right now is a clean start. You have the best opportunity for that. But having the best opportunity and executing are two completely different things. And that's all Giovanni De Salvo is thinking about right now. Keeping the tires warm, which is a thing you have to do in ACC on the pace lap, and getting a clean start and a clean T1, Chris. That is paramount to victory today if he wants to lead the first lap and make it to the end, hopefully, in the position he started in.
Well, that's always the goal. Obviously, brake temperatures interrelate with tire temperatures as well, as you can see drivers doing some gentle weaving at this stage. it's a long lap, and the tyre temps do come up gently over the course of the pace lap. But we saw a little bit of already slowing down, fairly rapid slowing down during the pace lap, just to grab some brake temperature as we're following Vicky Thompson from RLM Motorsport, one of the Esport drivers there, in 24th place. Got a little bit of work to do, but as you said, within a second, anything can happen, and I wouldn't write off anyone at this stage. Not only because the field's so close, but I'd be a little bit rude.
Well, they are continuing their pace lap. Of course, it is GT rules. It will be a rolling start, 2x2, as far as the eye can see, but they are told at this point to line up single file. You'll see many of the drivers weaving back and forth to keep that temperature, and as Chris pointed out, you got to keep temperature in the brakes too, because having temperature in the tires doesn't mean anything if you make it down to turn one, but you don't have temperature in the brakes. But just want to talk about a few drivers of personal note for me here. Random call sign, also known as Ricardo Claro in this race. He's my typical commentating partner for the Tier 2 championship here at ACC. Want to wish him good luck, and Ryan Gill as well, who is a brother to us here in the booth. Typically, he's in the race today, and he's been grinning ear to ear all week as they line up 2x2, Chris.
Yeah, field starting to form up behind DeSalvo, or should be alongside DeSalvo, as Chris Hokie just pulls up alongside him at the front as we come through the final couple of corners. Field bunching up nicely, and we just hope for a clean start. Turn one's a big braking zone. That is Cheetah Corner, which we talked about earlier in the broadcast as being a bit of a hot point because of that horrible curb on the inside that has caught out some big names. But here we go, rounding the final corner. Giovanni DeSalvo, Chris Hoker, Danilo Santoro, and James Parker make up the front two rows as the field slightly spreads out a little bit. We're watching Axel Petit in fifth place in the Audi as they're just about to head up to the start line for the 2020 Redline Motorsport 1 hour of Kyalami. The guys are go, and already DeSalvo making a commanding lead, and Santoro trying to run round at the outside into turn one. We'll see how that goes, whether Chris Hoker can maintain his place. He goes very early to the inside, but has to cede the position. Looks like a very clean run through further back, despite cars being 3 or 4 wide. Great respect between these drivers, as we've seen lots of experienced drivers doing an excellent job. We've got drive-through penalties for Kelvin van der Linde and Machuska as well, who've potentially jumped the start there or failed the start procedure in some way or another. We'll try and get a little bit of clarification from the race stewards as that goes on. Jesse, what did you make of that?
Well, for Giovanni DeSalvo, was exactly what you wanted. You wanted to get away cleanly. It was a absolutely brilliant start. He got a clean look into turn one, a little bit of contest from Chris Hokie, but all things considered, he's the one out there with a half a second lead, and everybody else is all bunched up. And as you mentioned earlier, Kelvin van der Linde and Wolf Matuszka both getting a drive-through penalty. You can almost assume that that's either not being lined up properly on the start or by virtue of being too quick, perhaps, or too slow on the initial start, but it's most likely due to being out of position. We'll follow up with that as best we can. But the fight right now, as Giovanni DeSalvo has gapped him by a full second here on this opening lap. He will be incredibly excited for himself on that case. And Danilo Santoro will also be happy because he's leapfrogged himself up into the second position as they start the second lap.
He might well be happy, but he's got a train of angry, well, Porsches to start with, but angry German cars of various manufacturers behind him, as we see James Parker going defensive from Smith, THR behind him. Managed to maintain the position, but that's given a little bit of breathing space, even more for DeSalvo up front. We've got Kevin Siggy putting pressure on the Audis in front of him as well. There's a lot going on, but I think Santoro looked perhaps like he didn't quite have the pace to gap away from the two RLM Motorsport Porsches behind him.
Yeah, and it is a absolute highway traffic jam here from about fourth on back. It's just car after car in a row as far as you can see, and James Parker here is the I guess you could say he's the engine of the train, Chris, because he's the one trying to pull away from the group. But there's so many cars so packed together. We have Elvin Smith, Jardier, Axel Petit in this, and Mikowski in this as well, and also Vanderlinde, who has still not served that drive-through penalty. Be interesting to see exactly what happens with that. And
Yeah,
now's
he
a
was
good time.
under a lot of pressure there from Kevin Siggy in the McLaren 720S, as we were just watching.
Yes.
James Parker under pressure from THR Smith behind him. Jardier following there. Lots of battles starting to evolve. Little groups as James Parker clips that curve that we talked about earlier in the race. Has to go defensive on the inside. Loses the place to Smith. Jardier tries to run it around the outside. But there's going to be no room. Door shut, but it's a long run down into turn one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get a really big pull in some of these cars. Of course, all these different displacements, as you see James Parker under fire from Jardier down into turn one, and he thinks better of it. That's the one great thing about a race like this, is you have a ton of talent and a ton of drivers who know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And that was certainly a know when to fold them moment. And that was just expertly put into turn one as no harm, no foul. They continue on. And no doubt, if I know Jardier, he's going to continue to try that move because he thinks he has it.
Kelvin van der Linde, we saw briefly on the screen there, getting past Axel Petit. He may well have a drive-through penalty pending, but he is pushing on, now up to 7th place. His race start has been absolutely astounding, and he's now going after Jardier. Words I didn't think I was going to be saying earlier in the session when he got the drive-through, but here we go. This he's got the bit between his teeth. This is what a professional racing driver can bring to the proceedings, Jesse.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Chris. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. You had Kelvin van der Linde, who qualified 12th in this race, which we thought was pretty admirable. But now, even with the drive-through penalty that he's not taken yet, he's up into the top 10. He's in 7th place, and he can see 5th place. And that's exactly what you say. A professional racing driver knows how to get around cars. They know how to deal with the early start and the obvious professionalism coming through right there. And now I cannot believe that he's on the back of Jardier. Could you imagine being Jardier in this case and you have Kevin van der Linde behind him? And now, unfortunately, Kevin van der Linde has been disqualified from this race. Took too many laps to
didn't
the
serve the
drive-through.
drive-through penalty within the 3-lap window as prescribed by the game. That's a real shame for us, but rules are rules, so we're just going to have to satisfy ourselves with this battle as Jardier has caught up with James Parker, who we saw lose a couple of positions as he nailed that curb on the inside of Cheetah, and now has a smiling YouTuber. You said, could you put yourself in Jardier's shoes? I don't have to watch his screen to know that he's got a massive grin on his face as he's doing that, as we see James Parker running wide again, perhaps starting to feel the pressure here.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing worse than that is now James Parker has Jardier behind him, and James Parker is a really quick driver, but Jardier is very, very efficient as well. Certainly seen that in his RLM races as well as others abroad. So this battle probably isn't going to go away either way. The only thing that happened for Jardier there is now he's got a little bit of blue sky in his rear view mirror.
Yeah, well, that's a nice thing to have. Not many people on the track have it. Currently, we're watching a little battle between several cars in the midfield, including Dennis Lind in that Dayglow Lamborghini. I have to be very careful about how I describe that color scheme because I must say I'm not a fan. There's Luca Tozzato up front in the Porsche, and a little bit ahead of them, Samuel Ratz. Both of those guys, Esport drivers, as a little bit of a defensive move into the last corner is going to give Dennis Lind a good run onto the start-finish straight, especially if he takes that massive wide line around the outside there onto the runoff. You can't get away with doing that too often. You'll get track cut penalties served by the game. That's not something that's going to be added by a steward. That's something that's sorted out by the game itself, so you can't really get away with hoping you can sneak too many of them in. The game knows you have to either lift and then the penalty, the track cut isn't issued, or if you keep your foot in, then it will be. I suspect, given that we saw Lind not make any progress, that he did lift, as we see Vit coming under pressure from the Lamborghini there of Samir Ibrahimi. who's managed to make the place. The RLM driver getting ahead in the end there. Although the move's still not done by the looks of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still ongoing.
I know, I've decreed it thusly. The move's over. We can
Yes,
say it's safe. Are they not listening?
Yes, very well.
Elvin Smith doing an excellent job there for THR in the leading Audi. Sorry to cut across you, Jesse. Not being rude, just getting excited to see something that's not a Porsche doing well.
No, not at all. I absolutely understand. And back to Lynn for a second. That is a very distinctive livery he has chosen today.
Distinctive, is that the word we're using?
That's the word I'm going to use live on air.
It's
very distinctive indeed. But somebody mentioned in chat, and they're absolutely right. He qualified outside the top 20, but has worked his way inside the top 15. Just a fantastic
there you go,
start.
real world racing drivers.
There you go.
They're good in those opening laps, aren't they? Decisive work from both Van der Linde and Lynn. Both excellent GT3 drivers in their own right, and a great first 5 laps or so. We're looking at Gergo Panka, who I believe is the top of the Kunos Devs tree at the moment, coming under pressure from Sikowski behind. Manages to keep the place briefly, although the move's not done. He's got the inside for turn 2 and should be able to cover it off on the inside for turn 3. I speak too soon, and dare I say, the door was forced open a little bit there. Gergo's got the inside line for the very fast sunset bend, though, and this is a pretty courageous place to keep its foot in. He does. Is the Lamborghini driver going to try and go around the to contend with Sikowski in the slow Audi up ahead? This is great stuff, Jesse.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And just looking at the battle back in the packet, 25th, I was just keeping an eye on that as you were talking, Chris. It's heating up from about 25th on back. It's all stacking up there, talking about Lamborghinis, and everybody vying for position here while the rubber is fresh. Of course, just a reminder to everybody, not expecting any weather.
There. That is very busy. Sorry to cut across you again.
No, absolutely.
The drift driver. You're absolutely right. This is the battle to watch. It's not even a battle. It's a moving car park at the moment, as Samuel, having to go defensive against the Audi, loses a position. Going to potentially lose another one from Davide Brivio behind him, the other Kunos Dev that we were talking about a little earlier. It's busy around here. As we said, these guys who were only all under a second off of the leaders' pace in qualifying, all having a stonking battle themselves.
Yeah, certainly. Any small mistake you mentioned earlier about perhaps hitting a sausage curb or anything, just maybe missing your apex ever so slightly, that sort of thing matters to esports drivers and drivers of this caliber, and that's how you get your nose in there. It just takes the smallest of moves, doesn't it? And you get overtaken, and certainly that's what caused this, in my mind, is a few drivers who maybe make a slight mistake and it stacks everybody up. But again, a mistake to them is missing it by millimeters, isn't it? A mistake for me is I'm gone off in the gravel.
Very much so. We were just watching Mitja Bonker there as we cut to Chris Hoke in the lead. Mitja is well known in the Assetto Corsa modding community. He produced the Okayama circuit, the Buriram circuit, both excellent mods for Assetto Corsa. Well-known member of the community. Behind him in that little 4-car battle at the back is David Perel, who looks like he's had a pretty bad start to the race, languishing down in 35th place. Behind him, 9 seconds down the pack, is Josh Martin, the Thrustmaster Esport driver, who has done a bit of coaching with David Perel, as in Josh Martin coaching Perel on some of the intricacies of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I think did some race engineering for him in a few races as well. So lots of these guys tied up through both the esports world and the real world. As we see Perel's got ahead of the Audi in front of him and going after DeLuca and Bonker ahead.
Yeah, I can say something about David Perel that I found interesting that I did not know. And of course, most people will know him as the race car driving YouTuber who has fantastic insight, and everybody kind of knows him for that. One thing that you may not know is he has his own coaching platform called Coach Dave, and you can hire him to coach you in real life. So Not only does he coach you on your sim racing on YouTube, Chris, he can coach you in real life as well. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah, if I could get the budget together, I'd enjoy a lesson in this Ferrari 488. That's for sure. As we're watching Chris Hoker, the leading red line driver, putting Danilo Santoro under a lot of pressure now. Santoro not looking like he really has the pace of the following pack. Hoker getting a really great run out of the hairpin, running down mine shaft now towards the right-hander here called Crocodiles, one of the best overtaking places. Hoker looks up the inside. He's coming from a long way back. It's unlikely this lap, but still manages to stay alongside. Gets great traction, will be on the inside for Cheetah Bend. Has to back out because, well, we've talked about that sausage curve before, and you know how that's going to end. That, of course, has brought the pursuing Smith behind right back into contention. This is a great battle. Right on the outside of the podium positions for second, third, fourth, and fifth place. Parker down in fifth. Jardier following in sixth, not far behind, as we see Smith now looking to take Hoker as well, who was put out of line earlier with that overtaking move. He loses the inside. He's not going to have the inside for turn 2, but will have the high ground for the all-important turn 3, leading back out into the back straight. And it looks like the move's done. Great stuff.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the small, tiny little millimeter sort of mistake, isn't it? Chris Hoke was trying to make the pass for second place on Santoro and got a little bit out of line, had to fall back in line. And of course, you give up time when you're not on the optimal line. And that put him back into the clutches of Elvin Smith. And Elvin Smith is not going to miss an opportunity to make an overtake and absolutely executed on that overtake going down into turn 1, I believe. Just fantastic stuff. And that shows you, folks, millimeters matters to these pros, to these esports pros. They know what they're doing. It didn't look like much. In a normal race, it wouldn't be much. But in this race, it's everything.
Yeah, it's very fine margins as we're joining Chris Hoke on board inside that Porsche, as commentator's curse immediately says that the camera switches as soon as I say it. But in fact, we can already see Smith looking to throw a little defensive dummy there. He doesn't feel that he is safe from the pursuing red line Porsches behind. And judging by the sort of 2 car lengths between them, I think that's a reasonable position to take. They've not lost touch with Santoro in front. But Giovanni De Salvo now 3 seconds into the lead, doing an excellent job. Speaking of redline guys, we're watching Samir Ibrahimi just on the outside of the top 20, on the edge of the top 20 in 20th position. Has made up a few places, but has a number of cars in front of him as he tries to run around the outside of the Audi into the final turn. That's going to be a struggle. Depends how quickly he can get on the power. Doing a good job there. As you can see, the Audi on the inside didn't have the room to really get the power down as much as he'd like. There's going to be a drag down to turn 1. Samir on the outside. It's not the place you really want to be, but let's see who's bravest on the brakes. And the answer's Samir, but he tries to turn into a space that was occupied by a fine piece of German GT3 machinery.
Yes, absolutely. It makes me wonder what happened to Samir Ibrahimi. I didn't necessarily see his qualifying pace as, there's a car in the background of this picture that has lost it for me. I'm unsure which car that was, but one car definitely got up on the curbs and lost it. But Samir Ibrahimi, talking about him, back to him for a second. Interesting that he's back here. He certainly was really quick in practice. I'm unsure where exactly he qualified.
I think he's carrying the penalty of driving the Lamborghini, unfortunately.
Yes, you're right. He would have to be, wouldn't he?
As well. Top Lamborghini at the moment, Dennis Lind in 14th place, who, as we said earlier, is probably there by virtue of the fact he had an excellent start to the race. Certainly running a little bit further ahead than the outright pace of the car would lead us to believe. Just looking down the order at the moment, and it looks very much like the eSport guys are dominating, with 8 of the top 10 positions taken up by eSport drivers. This battle for second place still hot, with Elvin Smith in pursuit of Daniel Santoro. Jardier, the first of the non-eSport drivers, in 6th position. Although I think Jardier's kind of crossover, isn't he, in the sense that he takes part in eSport competitions, but he's also a content creator. And I think he wears both hats admirably. Now, when we go down to the real-world drivers, it is Dennis Lind in 14th place, who's fronting that field. So if we've got little if we're treating them as different classes within the race, then Dennis Lynn's in the lead of that one, but I don't think he'll be totally happy with 14th place.
No, absolutely not. And lucky for him, there's still 42 minutes where he can get some spots. Certainly, he's not going to give up in his, let's just call it a very loud Lamborghini of Dennis Lind and leave it at that because, my goodness, you give a racing driver a paint booth and they take a mile, don't they? It's absolutely fantastic. Just to remind everybody what the color coding means. If the number is in red, then they are a YouTube or streamer excuse me, I'm incorrect. They are esports pros, rather, if their number is in red. If their number is in silver, they are a internet celebrity sort of type. And if their name or their number, I should say, is in white, then they are real racing drivers. We technically have 3 classes here, 3 different races going on, if you will. And now take the time in chat to tell me who your favorite driver is or who you're pulling for. See a lot of different names in chat. Love to see that. But just absolutely amazing stuff. I wouldn't have called it, Chris, that the leader would only be a few seconds out and second place would be up for grabs, especially after that first lap that Giovanni had.
Yeah, I think Santoro, just being slightly off the pace of his teammate up front, has bunched up sort of all the way down to Kevin Siggy in 7th place. They're all, a couple of tenths apart from each other, as you can see when you're looking at the relative times there. And even Axel Petit only a second off the back of that battle. We're having, with 20 minutes gone, a third of the race gone, this is definitely keeping things interesting for us. We haven't seen too many changes for position in the last couple of laps, but this is a battle that is very much hotting up. Kevin Siggy was very fast in practice, and it'd be interesting to see what that McLaren can do across the race stint. He's definitely in the I think he's definitely in the pound seats at the moment, as we see James Parker ahead, taking a lot of curb on the inside of the hairpin. Lots of different lines with these different cars. Obviously, front-engined cars not doing so well here. We've just got the rear-engine Porsches, or I should say rear-mid, really, with the newer Porsches, and the mid-engine and McLaren's very much the right car to have at this stage, at this circuit, in Assetto Corsa and Kyalami in these track conditions, as Kevin Siggy is getting very close to Jardier now.
Yeah, I keep going back to that McLaren, and I'm sorry for you guys at home. I'm harping on that single McLaren up here in the top 25, but it's just such an interesting choice, and Kevin Siggy has owned it and showed that car can be just as fast as a lot of these other cars as well. I think, Chris, you nailed it. I think the mid-engine or rear-engine displacement, depending, is the way to go for this race, obviously. But the fact that he's really the only one repping McLaren here, other than you, obviously, as you said earlier, it's fantastic that he's not only set quick laps in qualifying, but he's also still up here, and now he's hounding Jardier for 6th place. It's just fantastic. Rep your brand.
Yeah, well, very much. It's a case with McLaren and me. If I keep saying nice enough things about McLaren, maybe they'll let me in. I mean, I'm just down the road, guys. Just
are you not allowed in the building?
I think because they make Formula One cars there, they're probably just not going to let people wandering off the street.
Oh,
I've never tried. Maybe I should just pop around for coffee.
Give Chris a drive. You know you'll want to, McLaren.
We're watching Elvin Smith putting the pressure still on Danilo Santoro. I think this is one of those hurry up and wait situations. He's doing an excellent job of staying nailed to the bumper of that Porsche 911 GT3R, and I really want this battle to heat up. We're so close. Elvin Smith's a long-time professional. He knows what he's doing here. He's not going to force anything. Santoro as well, not making any mistakes. And it should be said that the professionalism of all these drivers is extraordinary. If you compare this to perhaps some other esport events we've seen recently with lots of incidents, we haven't had any of that. This has been absolutely astounding quality of racing. As we see Elvin Smith in the front of the picture there, actually having a bit of a glance down the inside of Danilo Santoro into turn 1. I think it was just a bit of a feint. I'm not sure it was a real move, but Elvin Smith, I was saying he was trying to keep his powder dry, just wait for the right time. Perhaps he's starting to get a little bit frustrated now.
Yeah, perhaps he is, but I think all these esports guys, I think all these guys up front here are incredibly patient. They've all been here before. This is not anything new. The only thing difference is perhaps, there's a bit of a wiggle right there that you may have noticed. Was that Elvin Smith, who's now letting Chris Hoke back through?
Yeah, it looked like Smith got on the curb a little bit there, lost traction, and had to go on the defense against Chris Hoke and the pursuing pack behind, including Parker, who's under pressure behind from Jardier and Siggy. This is busy stuff.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there you go again. Just a small little mistake, just a little wiggle getting onto the curb, taking a bit of curb. Some of these cars respond better to curbs. Chris, you would know better than I do. I only really drive the 2 cars, so I don't really have some of the knowledge of especially the Porsches in tow here. I don't really drive them because, to be quite frank, I'm not very good at it. But
The Porsche
I understand.
is a very different experience.
I've heard that.
It's an odd car, but it's incredibly fast when you can get it to work. It rotates so well, which when the setup's not good, is a very bad thing because you can't lean on the car. You don't feel confident and you just can't go quick at all. But it's also got it's got some of the best traction out of the corners in the game. So all-round weapon, that car. And it's no surprise to see 4 of them in the top 5. That being said, DeSalvo running away at the front of it. Santoro, perhaps you could argue he might be playing the team game and holding up the guys behind, but I suspect he just doesn't quite have the pace of his teammate at the moment, and that's creating quite the party behind.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and you're just watching this giant snake of cars starting from about the 3rd position now, and there's just almost nothing in it. And you keep watching this. You keep watching Elvin Smith, Chris Hoke, and the lot, because any small movement, any little wiggle, any of that could mean losing several positions at this point. And keep talking about Jardier. And you see his name in silver. He's a celebrity driver, so to speak, on the internet. So he has that distinction. He's up there he's threatening again for the top 5 against these esports pros. Saw some people in chat mention that he's sort of a crossover driver. That's absolutely true, isn't it? He's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Chris, I'm pretty sure you also pointed that out. And it's just fantastic.
You just get brown if you mix silver and red, though, don't you? So that I don't think that would have worked.
That's something else I don't know. I don't know what you get. I mean, I suppose you're right, but it's just fantastic.
I think those things mix, you get brown, don't you? So anyway, we've got a good opportunity here now. Elvin Smith's had that little incident, just losing traction and having to go on the defensive. He's 1.4 seconds away from Danilo Santoro. Let's see how he can drag the pack back towards him, and whether it is a case of Santoro was holding everyone up, or whether those guys just were all pretty evenly matched. Be interesting to see how this develops. Probably more interested in all of it is Giovanni DeSalvo, who is now near 5 seconds or clear at the head of the field, and arguably not having to work all that hard at the moment.
I don't suspect he's driving with one hand just yet, but certainly he executed his game plan. He was quickest in practice, he was quickest in qualifying, and he had a bit of a challenge into turn 1 of the first lap, and he got away to the tune of a second, and a second is worth a lot. And over the last 15 laps, he's accrued nearly a 5-second gap. So all things to plan, but pretty sure nobody in the DeSalvo garage celebrating just yet, because still 33 minutes to play.
Yeah, field's starting to spread out into distinct battles at the moment, as we were watching Romain Monti, who is a Maserati Trofeo champion, 24 Hours of Spa Silver Cup winner in the Ombra Racing Lamborghini Huracan. I think that was in 2018. Axel Patina, we're watching, who SRO Esports driver, has joined the back of that pack. So this little fight for, well, now 3rd, is hotting up. I say it's hotting up. It's been hotting up for ages. I can't keep hyping the battle that's going to happen, but at some point in the next 30 minutes, this is going to get very spicy. It just takes one overtaking to happen in that pack, and the chain reaction could be huge. We're now 6 cars, is it? Just snaking their way around, a tenth or two away from each other. Lots of different types of cars in there as well. James Parker probably a little bit upset that he dropped back from 3rd place earlier on. Chris Hoker, we've seen him venting his sort of frustration, showing the inside to Elvin Smith several times now. I think there's a lot of drivers who are feeling they've got the pace to go and catch DeSalvo up in the lead from that group. They're just not making it. Watching Roman Monti running wide, looked like getting the run on Darren King, the THR driver, but catching the grass and probably not the fastest way to get out of that corner.
No, certainly not. Oh, but they do end up side by side just briefly, and thinks better of it. Darren King remains the 15th place car, and Monty falls back in line. No doubt he'll continue to try that move because now he knows that he has the pace to try it. I wonder a lot of the time in these races how hard you're actually driving at this point. You're halfway through the race, and maybe you're a little annoyed because you've been looking at the same rear end of a car for the last 30 minutes. But it always seems in these RLM races that it always comes down to a last lap sort of maneuver because these guys are generally very well mannered. And that's exactly what you want, isn't it? It's supposed to mimic the real thing, and it certainly does. As this battle between Darren King and Romain Monti is still at it. Every corner is a opportunity, as they say, as they
We're
are
watching
nose to tail.
Jardier on the main screen at the mainstream at the moment, with running quite wide at the final corner, having to lift a little bit, coming under pressure from Kevin Siggy in that menacing-looking matte black and blue McLaren 720S. Not quite enough to bring him into overtaking contention, but this is very, very close margins, and we're seeing little mistakes starting to crop in. Half an hour in, as you sort of suggested, Jesse. A little bit of frustration coming in from some of the drivers. We see Jardier just missing the apex there a tiny bit. These are tiny, tiny margins of error between the drivers on track at the moment, and I just really want. I'm at that stage now where I'm excited enough. I just really want something to happen. Kevin Siggy very close to making a move there. Watching Dennis Lin now in the lead of pro drivers battle, has caught up with Luca Tozzato, Samuel Ratz, and Enslin in front of him, probably desperate to get past as well as everyone else is. Actually, not all of that off of that front battle as well. So Lin's good. In fact, you can see the battle just in front as it went off to the right-hand side of the screen in front. So these guys not out of contention yet.
No, there's certainly not. I mean, if I think the old rule in racing is if you can see him, you can catch him, and nobody here is giving up. Obviously, as the battle for what would effectively be 12th place is hotting up nicely there, but yeah, certainly you don't really think you're out of it if you can see the cars in front of you, and certainly all these guys can. And to your point, there's absolutely nothing in it. There's absolutely nothing in it from the top, from about what 3rd or 4th to 14th. They're all in the same straightaway most of the time. And
sorry to interrupt. We got a battle for 13th place going on. We had Enslin running up the inside into turn 1 of Tozzato, having to go defensive into turn 2 and 3, managed to keep the position in the Porsche there, but that looks like he's now under pressure from Lin. As we've seen before, trying to make the overtake work quite often puts you on the back foot. The Audi squirms on the inside curve. Lin goes around the outside. It is, well, just an extraordinary overtaking move, the sort that you would expect to see from a professional racing driver.
yeah, he absolutely took all the room necessary to make that pass. Could have been a little bit of argy-bargy going on there and a couple of bumpers there. Perhaps even a little one on the exit after the pass was done. But either way, Dennis Lin getting it done in that very brightly colored car. So that, I mean, it's just that's what you expect.
Him, do you?
No, yeah. Absolutely not, and just fantastic. I mean, that was an aggressive racing driver, knowing that you know, looking at the clock, you got a finite amount of time to make the move.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, if you try lots of half-hearted attempts, you know, you lose a second or 2 seconds every time you try them. You make one decisive opportunity presents itself, and you lose almost no time. and that's the mark of a true professional. As we're now watching the battle, the front car there, I believe, is Aris, the Kunos physics developer, and the lone Nissan being pursued by several other cars. He's a little bit behind Davide Brivio, the other Kunos dev, and Diego Panca a couple of places ahead of him. So the Kunos guys running in the mid to late 20s in terms of position at the moment. That's I don't know who that's interesting to, but it's interesting to me. Certainly, as I count them as friends, and of course they're the people that created this game that we're watching today. So it's nice to see them get their asses handed to them by some fast guys.
I was actually talking to, well, I wasn't really talking so much as I was listening to Aris today, who in practice today with that GTR, was wondering, he was questioning his life choices of why he picked that car, because it was a car that you have to absolutely hustle around here, and thought that he might be going a bit mad with a pick like that, wondering why he ever did such a thing. But still putting on a show out here, you got to admit, it doesn't matter what position you're in, a battle is a battle, and hustling that thing around. And of course, as we know, the GTR is a hero, as there's a little bit of a bump there for Aris, and one of the cars goes around in the background. That's unfortunate contact, trying to make a move into the inside, didn't work out.
Yeah, sadly we didn't see that on the main stream. Was it one of the